everyone, it's Sarah from the Support Worker Store. Today I've got Harry from Marco Polo, and we're here to ask you, Harry, a heap of questions, so I hope you're ready.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. But yeah, been very much excited to do this for a little while. It's nice to meet you a couple of weeks ago at the expo, so it hasn't taken us long to link up, has it?
Not at all. Good things work fast. That's how I see it.
Mm,
Harry, can you tell everyone where you grew up? Because I feel like this is a foundation to your story.
it is, and yeah, might also be the demise as soon as I tell you where I'm from. I'm a Bendigo boy, born and bred. I spent a good part of, about 18 years of my life in Bendigo. A beautiful place to grow up. Could I live there forever? Probably not. But yeah, you're right, Sarah. I think it has been the foundation, or at least where the inception of Marco Polo came about. A lot of ties to Bendigo, a small enough community that everyone knows everyone, which I suppose in the industry and the sector we're in is really important. Being
Yeah.
a people-centric industry, yeah.
So, besides the Bendigo part, you actually became friends with Max and Gabriel. Is that from school in Geelong, or is that from Bendigo?
No, that's Bendigo as well. Bendigo too. So we are all
Really?
Bendigo
I thought
boys.
you guys went to like a
Max
Geelong
and
school.
no, Bendigo boys. So Max, Gabe, and I were, I suppose, well acquainted at school. Max and Gabe had quite a close friendship. Myself and Gabe had quite a close friendship. Max and I probably mere acquaintances at best. So hats off to Gabe for being, I suppose, the connector, the glue. But yeah, all went through school together in Bendigo. Sarah is how we initially met each other. I suppose as life does, it drags you in different directions, which led the three of us to end up in Geelong for a handful of different reasons. Gabe and Max predominantly work. I ended up down here for study, and yeah, blessed enough to be able to maintain a friendship even post school. But yeah, it all started at school. Year 7, I remember running around on the oval kicking the football with Gabe, often extending the lunchtime bell by a couple of minutes. Yeah, we've got Bendigo to thank for a lot of things.
So, did you ever think at school, you know what, probably going to open a business one day with you guys?
I don't think so, no, and that probably just speaks to, I suppose, how close we were at school. It was quite a superficial relationship at the time I did have with the boys. Not to say I didn't see value in either of them, and probably they share in that as well. But I think when we were at school, we were there for one thing, which was to get by, to get the certificate that says we've at least achieved year 12. Gabe, Max, and I all went to a school in Bendigo that was quite focused on academic results being the be all and end all. So I think naturally between the three of us, we all studied subjects that would lend itself to going into business afterwards, business management or accounting, something along those lines. But yeah, it wasn't an active thought ever. All right, well, once this thing that they call school is done, what are we going to do next? Why don't we start up a business? I think I know for a fact that all came post school.
So, between the three of you, is one creative, one cheeky, one very serious? Because I feel like you'd need 3 different people to run a business.
Yeah, we complement each other well. Max is very creative, very, very creative. I lack heavily in that department, and Gabe has his own strengths as well. I think between the three of us, we probably share some similar characteristics, and cheek is probably one of those. I think that would be the
I
common
thought that was your
denominator.
one.
Yeah, I don't know. You obviously don't know the other boys too well, Sarah. I think we can all give as good as we take.
So, with such a big because to be honest, Marco Polo isn't a small idea, it's quite a big one. What was the moment where you're all like, let's just do it? Like, why not? Why not open our own service?
Yeah, I don't think we've reinvented, and I say to people quite frequently, we haven't reinvented the wheel doing disability support. We were the first, and we're not going to be the last to set up a business in this space. I think for us, though, we post school, it was about December through. At that point, Gabe, Max, and I had all moved from Bendigo down to Geelong. I suppose, had reached a point where we'd accumulated enough experience or come across different things on our journeys post school where it just seemed like a logical decision to set up something in the industry, having, like I said, carried that previous experience, thinking that maybe we could do something a little bit differently. Gabe and Max, I suppose, had accumulated a bit of experience at an organisation in Bendigo. Myself, I had just been working independently in support work, and at the same time had gone to set up another business in Airbnb short stay property investment. So I suppose combining the skill sets of the three of us, myself in business and Gabe and Max, I suppose, in the support work realm, having exposure to how different organisations in the sector run, it just seemed logical that we'd ended up in the same place to go and set up something like that.
Yep. So did you feel that there was something, like when it comes to people being supported in Geelong, was there something missing? Is that the reason why you picked Geelong? Because hypothetically, you guys could have gone back to Bendigo and opened a business.
We could have. Could you have paid me enough to go back to Bendigo? That would have been the other side of the coin, Sarah. I don't think it's necessary. I think what we recognised rather wasn't necessarily limited or exclusive to Geelong, but rather the sector as a whole, is that there seems to be a very, very big void in, I suppose, one of two things, being male support workers in the space, and second to that, young support workers. I think 70% of the sector is made up of female support workers, and yeah, further to that, I think over 40% is people aged 45 and over. So I think what we've done is recognise that there is a niche and a void in being younger supports and being younger male supports, and simply just trying to fill that void. And hence why I say we haven't reinvented the wheel in setting up a disability support business or doing disability support. I think what we've done is recognise where there is a void and try to fill that in the market.
Yep. 100%. I agree with you. You've got the demographic right. My people.
Yeah.
No, Marco Polo. Where did you guys come up with the name? Why did you come up with the name? Does it have any meanings behind it?
It does, probably a dual meaning. I'm sure we're all familiar with that fun game you play in the pool with your eyes closed where you wave around and yell out Marco Polo. Yeah, we spent a fair bit of time down at the beach in the pool over the summer when Marco Polo was incepted, and I suppose the more we flirted with the idea of a business name and the more looking into it we did, Marco Polo as a person was a 13th century explorer who I suppose made it his goal to charted territories that weren't yet charted. He wrote a book, The Travels of Marco Polo. Yeah, he does. I know. I'm sorry to take you to this level, but yeah, I suppose he was a pioneer in the field of exploration. For Gabe, Max, and I, we wanted to, I suppose, charter territories that maybe it wasn't common for young men to charter in the sector. And I suppose a culmination of Marco Polo the man and Marco Polo the really fun game that you play in the pool, yet just lent itself really well to setting up a business called Marco Polo.
I thought it was completely different. I thought it was like, you know what, it's really hard to find a service, so it's like, you know, Marco Polo, which one can I pick? But you went a lot more deeper than I gave credit for.
I like that one, though, Sarah. That's a good one.
I've just been
I might use that.
I didn't even know that Marco Polo was named after an explorer.
I learn something new every day, don't you?
Was it scary jumping into a business with another two people?
I think it was as scary as it was exciting, Sarah. I think that's the same with anything. I think that's not an unnatural way to feel, is levels of excitement and levels of nerves or fear or being scared. I suppose I think what we were able to really hold strong in was that we knew we were entering into a market, a sector that really needed what we were going to offer. Gabe's mum runs a private psychology practice. My mum runs a private speech practice back in Bendigo. Max's grandmother had a wealth of experience working in the disability sector. So I suppose we had the people around us to be able to support us navigate the uncharted waters, so to speak. So whilst we have been really big on learning for ourselves, making the mistakes as we go, we also were really blessed to have people to support us, to be able to turn to ask questions about, which meant that the daunting, scary prospect of setting up a business in the ever-changing, complex landscape, which is the NDIS, was made a lot more easy and a little bit more comfortable.
So I've got to ask a question for you. You're right. What was the very first service that you guys offered?
It was one-to-one supports. Gabe, Max, and I, having all come from support workers, felt that it was most appropriate to offer one-to-one peer mentoring type supports to start. Again, at the start of any business, when you don't have a name or a reputation, you need to do something very well to build up that reputation. And that's where we felt like our strong suit and skill set lied, was peer mentoring. For younger males, a lot of community access, being able to help with school pickup, spend some hours out in the community, build skills, encourage independent living, whatever that looked like, and then drop home. And then naturally, I suppose when you do a good job of that, then there's a reputation that's built that allows for, I suppose, more complex, different avenues of support services to open up. So then we moved into, like I've mentioned previously, we haven't reinvented the wheel doing disability support. So from providing a different service offering, we're one of probably thousands in the space that do that. I think where we see ourselves as a little bit different, Sarah, is that we've maintained our niche in recruitment and culture. Like I mentioned, we're a super young team. At the moment, there's about 37 of us on the team. 32 of those are support workers. The remaining 5 or 6 are Get to hang out with me in the office. Sucks to be them. But yeah, between the 37, there's 5 years at best separating the eldest and youngest. So the eldest person we got on the team is 27, the youngest is 21, 22. Which, I suppose means that when it comes to offering these supports to participants, when coordinators, families, parents reach out, they know what demographic of support worker they're going to get, and that often lends itself to a participant who's seeking a support who can play that older brother, older sister, mentor type support. So I'd say that's probably what our difference is. But for the supports as well, Sarah, like it means that there's an element of predictability that the support workers who come into our organisation have. They know the people they're going to be working with, who their colleagues are, often share a lot of similar interests, hobbies, a lot of commonalities. I think what I've noticed is some providers, and I was saying to one of the girls I work with today, when we put up a job interview or put up a job advert, we have 300 400 people apply for the job, which means that a lot of other organizations probably do the same, and then they're less cautious of who they sit down to interview, what resumes come across their desk, because it is quite easy to scale. I think it is quite easy to scale and grow an NDIS business, but it's those businesses that grow and scale too quickly and don't focus on the quality of supports they have in their organizations are the ones that often have compromised supports and services. So for us,
there's so much to unpack here. The first thing I've got to ask, which is, if I'm in my 30s, am I too old to work for?
Not at all. Age is just, I suppose, a factor that doesn't mean it's a be all and end all. There's, a lot of diversity that comes with. But I think it is just, I suppose, how we've gone about fostering culture within our organisation. So, I know for myself, I love to rock up to an office where I'm surrounded with people similar age to me that I feel like, whilst we maintain professional relationship, there's a lot of close friendships within Marco Polo as well.
So how do you manage that? Because there's quite some young people that have entered into your service, and that's being your service, and you to mentor and manage them to be able to provide really good quality care. How do you get to that point? Because a few of them would be quite new to.
Not overnight is the answer to that. It's been really cool to watch the progress and change from my role, Max's role in once being support workers supporting participants to growing a team, growing a business where our job is less to support participants and more to support supports. I think we've reinvested a lot of time and energy into making sure that the 33, 34 others that work alongside us feel supported, feel like there's a level of rapport and trust where no matter what situation, circumstance they find themselves, they can come to any of the three of us. And I suppose, be able to talk through any problem solutions. In addition to that, we've injected the two desks behind me are those of Sam and Lionel. Two boys who, were support workers quite early on in the world of Marco Polo. Who this year we've injected into the roles of quality. The preface of their roles is effectively to support workers, making sure that the 2, 3, 4 hours that we might spend with a participant a week is actively working towards this participant's goals, making sure that the support workers are well instructed, have the strategies in place to best support a participant. And as this business has grown, I don't have the time or the ability to do that myself as much as I would love to. And I think that's a really important part about leadership is putting people in positions where their skill sets lie that allows the same outcome to be achieved if that's not me or Gabe or Max who can achieve that. So we're really lucky to have Sam and Lionel to be able to do that. Miller, who's our practice manager, takes on a lot of those responsibilities of supporting the supports as well. But again, with such a tight-knit organisation where there are a lot of close friendships outside of the professional realm, it can be tricky at times to not maintain professional boundaries, but obviously political, you run into some political troubles at times where disagreements are had as colleagues that sometimes can spill out after 5, and vice versa, where issues in the friendship realm can show its head in the office. But I think what we've done, and I take my hat off to the team, what they've done a really good job of is knowing that between the hours of 9 to 5 or when they're on the clock, we are all, regardless of disagreements or differences, we're all working towards the same common goal, which is providing the best support for our participants.
So out of your team, who is the dreamer? Who is the organizer? And Who is the
I'm probably the latter, out of the three of us. But yeah, I think between the three of us, like I mentioned, Sarah, we've been able to do a really good job of having this roadmap that Gabe, Max, and I all know where we're going to end up or where we want to end up. And the path to get there on a day-to-day might look a little bit different, but ultimately the journey and the end goal remains the same. So there's days where I'll step into this office and have the most ridiculous idea that Gabe and Max will be very quick to bring me back into line, and days where Gabe and Max, I suppose, may come into the office with the same or a very similar or a completely different idea. I suppose how you go about navigating that as three close friends and colleagues is sitting down and referring back to this roadmap. All right, well, if we implement this, if we choose to go in that direction, does that still get us to the end goal, which is what we've all agreed on from day dot?
Ooh.
Or is this going to spring off to be another service offering that will probably offset the quality of our supports and distract us to getting to where we need to go?
So when you say like
I
a
suppose,
roadmap, is that like a strategic plan where you want to see your service?
Effectively, strategic plan, a business plan, a combination of the two of them, about 18 other documents interweaved into that. But effectively, we've recognized that we've started this together to achieve goal X, and goal X is being, I suppose, a quality support provider in, at least at the moment, the Geelong region. And every decision we try and make as management of Marco Polo needs to ultimately reflect that end goal for us. So to answer your question, who's the dreamy one, who's the get stuff done one on any given day, that can be any of the three of us. But yeah, I think regardless of any of that, we try really hard to work towards this roadmap, which allows us on different days to be the creative one, or to be the dreamy one, or to be the realistic one. I know that my days are a little bit more fun when I suppose I can be a little bit more free flowing or fluid in my thinking, and I also know there's days when there isn't a time and a space to do that, when there are days where, there might be the pressures of running a business that fall upon you where you just have to get stuff done. The reason tonight I'm in the office at 8:30, having got here more than 12 hours ago, it's a day where stuff needed to get done. That's not every day. We all, I suppose, share in that. We're good at juggling that. And it means that no one of the three of us, I suppose, is entitled to any more or less than the other.
Wow, sorry, I'm really impressed because I can tell you right now, at the age of 27, I wasn't thinking of business goals or strategies. I'll be honest with you. Kudos to you guys. Wow, it's really quite impressive to be that type. Well,
and that's where I appreciate that. I think that's where we've been blessed to have people around us who we've been able to put on this NDIS pedestal, be it for me, my mum, be it for Gabe.
So when you have all these dreams and develop this into a business, an NDIS business, I know that you said that your mum, you've had grandparents. Have you sought alternative besides family members, mentors? Like, do you have a business manager, like a business coach or anything like that has helped you guys through this, or is it just family?
No, we've grown to the point where we have had to put an ego aside and recognize that there's other professionals in our network that allow us to grow and be, I suppose, as ethically and morally sound as we possibly can be. I think that is where we complement each other really well, is that having had a background in setting up business before, the first business I set up when I was 18, that was probably overlooked, where there was an ego that got in the way to say, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it myself. And had a lot of fun in that previous business venture and was able to grow a business that was quite fruitful, and that was alongside some close friends as well. But I suppose the older you get and the more mature you get, you need to realize that people have expertise in different fields, not to compete with you, but effectively to be a resource for you to mutually benefit each other. So it's the reason that almost from day dot, one of the first people or one of the first resources we went out and acquired or looked into was an accountant, because I am limited, Gabe and Max and myself are limited in how much we know about accounting. So if we're going to scale this business to, like I mentioned, this end goal on the roadmap, we're not going to get there with us being the sole accountants. We're not going to be able to get there with being the business consultants. We're not going to be able to get there with being the human resource legal advisors. There's people in the professional realm that are those people for us to utilize. So yeah, we've got a great, I suppose, broader network around us of legal advisors and
Yep.
solicitors and accountants. And you name it, we've probably worked alongside them because in doing so, we've needed to put our ego aside to grow this business to where we need to or where we would like to get it to.
I get it because when I think about it, when you look at social media and like young males in entrepreneurship, what it looks like and what it actually is two different. I can see how it can be misleading at times for you guys at least. So where do you guys see yourself into what?
Yeah, had you have told me that 2 years or 2 years ago we'd be where we are now, I probably would have told you you're dreaming. Not that I didn't have trust in what we were doing, but back to, I suppose, your earlier question, Sarah, there's always unknowns when setting up a new business and you don't know how much traction something might get. I always had a huge backing for the boys I was with, Gabe and I'm still with Gabe and Max, and knew that, I suppose, our hearts were in the right place, which I think they need to be when you work in this sector. You need to have a heart for people and nothing else. So knew that 2 years ago we had an idea that could have been something. To see it where it is now, I'm really proud of. But 2 years from now, I suppose in the world of business can be a really long time.
I'm just nosy because you've got I'm so nosy. You've got a roadmap. I just want to know where this road goes because it sounds really interesting to follow you guys.
It's an interesting road to be on, Sarah. For us, we are cautious of growing too quickly and that compromising the quality of supports. I mentioned earlier, I think it is easy enough to do is to accept any referral that comes across my inbox and any job application that comes across my inbox, doubling this business, but in the process of doing so, compromising the quality of support. So for us, I suppose we'll move at the pace we feel we're called to. I don't want that to be a forced thing, and Gabe and Max and I are in agreement of that. I think geographically, from an expansion point of view, we're not going to limit ourselves, whilst at the moment we only operate or our services are bound to Geelong and Melbourne. I suppose we will go where the demand takes us. I would rather feel a calling for a certain area than try and, I suppose, plant different Marco Polos around the joint. Because again, I think that is an example of growing too quickly and not being able to manage the logistical and operational elements of having a Marco Polo back in Bendigo or in Ballarat.
I like that because sometimes I've gone to expos and I'll be like, so where are you? We're all over Victoria. I'm like, are you really like, because that's a fair stretch to be all around Victoria and to do it well, because let's be honest, support workers were a shortage. So if you can do the whole of Victoria, kudos to you, but I doubt it.
Yeah. And again, hats off to providers who, I suppose, do stretch themselves like that. But for us at the moment,
It's not worth it.
we're really at peace as to building up this blueprint, which is a HQ. It is a really tight-knit team. It is this demographic of participants and support workers that make up the organisation, be it Marco Polo, fostering a great culture and environment so that when that is running like a well-oiled machine, and Gabe, Max, and I feel like our calling is, all right, because obviously if there's a demand for what we're doing in Geelong, there's going to be a demand for that in Bendigo. There's going to be a demand for that in Ballarat. Touch wood, there's going to be a demand for that in Noosa. I'd love to end up in Noosa eventually. But there's no point going to those places until the operation and the Marco Polo we have now, which is in Geelong, is running like a well-oiled machine. Because, if we leave that too early, then we've got two Marco Polos that are running at 50%. And we're having to spread our time, our resources, our energy across two rather than setting up one, doing it really, 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 really well, grabbing that blueprint and going elsewhere and replicating that. And at the moment, we haven't felt the need to expand geographically. But I'd love to in due time. I suppose another 2 years for now. Maybe contrary to everything I've just said, Sarah, about growing too quickly. And I actually spoke to you the other day at a networking event that we were at. That support work in the industry, in the sector, I feel like is often seen as one of the, I suppose, positions, the roles, the jobs that doesn't have a clear progression or many career advancements.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah, it's almost as though if you're a support worker, then unless you, I suppose, go and study something else, you're always going to be a support worker. There's not any real gradual progressions. But for us,
for some people, that's okay, and it's for being a support worker, I loved it. In
Mm.
fact, the further I got away from people with disability, I just didn't feel right. Sit with my views. But you're right, as progression, it is really hard to progress if you're doing ones. If you're in a house or like a day service as such, can grow. But I think like even now, like I was talking to somebody the other day, we are so short on support workers that even if we grow, it's not always in the best terms, in the best way. It's because we're short, not because we put the years in and got our hands dirty and got quality out of that. If that makes any sense. Like I feel like as a support worker, you have to be burnt a couple times to be a real
Well and
and go
truly.
through all those because it's very difficult and not is a great. We can do all those things where you go to the movies, you go bowling, you can go surfing, you can do all the stuff. But that's not every day of somebody's life. There's actually down parts of some people's lives that we need to be prepared to support.
And ultimately, it's the support workers that rejoice and celebrate those days that arguably are our best support workers. I suppose that is how you learn, Sarah. It is you're not going to learn how to implement strategies or mitigate behaviours or build one's capacity if you're not seeing these escalations, these big behaviours. You're not having to get your hands dirty. You're not having or being put in a compromised position at all. So it's the support workers for mine who embrace those situations as learning opportunities, as turning points. I was having a chat to Lionel behind me the other day, and he argues the turning point in his career as a support worker came from some really, really compromising positions as a support worker, where he found himself in positions where he probably was questioning what the right or wrong thing to do was in a situation, and you rely on, I suppose, management instructions or what you've read on a piece of paper and hope it works. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then you learn. You know what to do next time you find yourself in that position.
It's making mistakes. So as a support worker, you can make a mistake, but it's doing it in a way that is safe possible, wherever possible for the person that would serve 100%.
Yeah, and I think the burnout in the industry is because supports are put in these positions, which is inevitable in the world of disability, but they don't have the management or the people above them that actually wrap their arms around them and make sure they're well supported thereafter. I've heard about it all too many, and then they feel so isolated in this world of as a support worker, probably scared to take on any new work because of the unknowns about it, or this is where you have such a high turnover in certain care teams is because people know, all right, well, I'm not going to work with this behavior when I can take Jimmy Johnson surfing and not have to worry about it. So that's something we've tried to be really big on is celebrating those who are prepared to do some of the trickiest stuff, and when maybe they do have a day that isn't all sunshine and rainbows, really wrapping our arms around them. I suppose continuing to remind them that this is the world of disability, and just because there isn't a fun day or today wasn't a fun day, that I suppose it's those days that ultimately is in the best interest of the participant, because no one else would sit there and continue to rock up for them if this person isn't going to. So
I agree.
It's a balancing act.
But you brought up something that was that just like triggered a memory for me. I remember once I intook a confidentiality. I intook a support worker, and then a couple of shifts in, I did the call. How you going? What's going on? And they're like, "You've checked up on me." It's like, yeah, like how going? Like I think I was taken back because this person was a seasoned support worker that had been doing this for years and had never worked for a provider or an individual that checked on her.
Yeah.
I think that there was my eye-opening. Okay, well, because when stuff does happen, when shit, it is something as simple as calling somebody to check how they are.
It doesn't take much, does it? Yeah.
As you're growing and you've got your team, if I was a support worker watching this podcast or any of these reels, how would they connect with you guys if they wanted to be a support worker for Marco Polo? What is the best way?
Yeah, we are often growing the team. At the moment, we're hiring. In a month's time, 2 months' time, we'll probably be hiring. Yeah, I suppose we typically don't do hiring rounds just because if someone, one, expresses their interest at any given point, that is liquid gold. Anyone who wants to work for the organisation is obviously someone who's probably forgone an opportunity elsewhere. So for me, that's music to my ears. But yeah, like I mentioned, if we do ever post a job advert and are intentional in that, we can get 200, 300, 400 applicants,
Yep.
which can be tricky to filter through and try and find the best fit. But for me, we have had numerous people who have sat on the couch in the lounge room, who have come in for an interview, who could sit there and probably recite to you the NDIS pricing guide or every module they've ever done. Does that correlate with them being a good support worker? What I found, no. At all. I think the people who seem to do well, from my experience in this industry, are those who genuinely have a heart for people and have a heart for wanting to see good outcomes for people. I think the specifics of the NDIS, the inner workings of price guides, strategies, certain language lingo within the NDIS, that can all be learnt and taught. I would rather invest my time and energy into teaching someone with a really good heart who doesn't have the previous experience these things than not having to worry about teaching someone the inner workings of the NDIS if they simply do not have a heart for people and a heart for good outcomes. So for mine, if you are wanting a job or looking to get into the industry, whether that's with us, whether that's with anyone else, I suppose, it comes down to, do you want good outcomes for people? Do you want to help people? Do you want to, want ultimately good outcomes for people? I can't word it in any other way other than
I agree with everything that you've said, because I've had people that have interviewed and they know absolutely every part of the book, but they were terrible. And you think that if you had that much knowledge that, you'd bring it forward. But then I've had people that have been in the sector for minutes and have been flipping frantic. So really, to be honest with you, I've come to that point when it came to interviewing for support workers that I knew in the first 2 minutes whether I would hire. And I think that's because where people give energy and they are vibes, and maybe it's my gut intuition, whether I could roster you on with somebody and they would have a really good time with you. If I couldn't, in my mind, if I couldn't roster you towards somebody to provide really good care that I thought you got along, I would never.
No, I can completely agree with you.
So
I think, and there's talks of it already, Sarah, I suppose what the NDIS is looking at doing with registration levels and tiering of registrations, I'm all for that. I think the barrier to entry to become, one, a support worker, two, or run a disability support organisation, or to be any provider, the barrier is far too low. As genuine clear proof in what Gabe, Max and I did, 3 mid-20-year-old boys sitting around a table watching the cricket and I suppose wasting their life 3 years ago to thinking, hey, why don't we try this? We're nothing special, and that is probably testament to the low barrier to entry of being a support worker. So what I'd like to see the NDIS do, which is what they're doing, is having these mandatory registration groups, trusting that I suppose these different tiers will dictate what services one can provide. But I think what it will do is it'll be the providers that, again, have a genuine care and want to see people achieve their goals and flourish, will be the providers that decide to get registered and spend the money to get registered. And ultimately, it'll be the providers that maybe are in it for ulterior motives or aren't as ethically and morally sound as what good providers are, that will be weaned out. And I think what that'll mean is that the participants, which ultimately this scheme is built around, will eventually end up in the hands of providers who are in it for the right reason. And hopefully that'll correlate with, I suppose, rates of abuse and neglect and harm and all the things that you learn about in the world of reportable incidents, a drastic decrease in that, simply because the only providers that will be left in the space will be those that have decided to get registered. So I'd love to see that, but again, it doesn't happen overnight. So it's a waiting game. Patience is a virtue with these sort of things, Sarah, but I think the NDIS is moving in the right direction when it comes to implementing that. The idea of running a business is very different to running a business. I think you mentioned earlier, I suppose, what is portrayed on social media and online about be your own boss, be an entrepreneur, the flexibility. Ironically enough, if I was a support worker employed anywhere else, I'd have much more work-life balance. I'd probably have more money than I do now. My stress levels would be 25 times lower. I would have spent more time with friends, more time with family. But that's just not how it is. You put your hand up to run a business and lead a team, you sacrifice a lot of those things, and I don't regret it for even a half second. And if I was in the same position 3 years ago, I'd do it all again. The reason is because we work in an industry where the work we put in ultimately is for the betterment of other people who need our support more than what we do. And that was the reason I ran into that ethical and moral conflict with the other work that I was doing, is because the outcomes weren't people focused. They were dollar figure focused. And it always left a void in my heart. I love people. I love chatting. You've probably got a good gauge at that point now. But yeah, for anyone else who's considering it, I would be a very silly man to advise you not to. I don't think there's room for competition or egos in this. If someone in the industry tells you not to, it's probably out of fear that you'll do a better job than them. I think that is having a healthy competition in a sense is good because it drives everyone to be better. So hats off to anyone who well and truly, and the bar needs to be raised in this sector, in this industry, at least in the support work realm. It needs to be raised. I love seeing there's a gentleman that I went through school, well, not through school with in Bendigo, but had crossed paths with in Bendigo, who's moved up to I think the northern beaches of Sydney or thereabouts, who's gone to set up a disability business quite similar to what we're doing. And I love seeing what he's doing because that drives me and vice versa. We've had a handful of chats. It drives me to be better to, I suppose, make sure the quality of supports we're providing is the best we possibly can. And it also means that he's watching what we're doing, saying, all right, well, how can we implement this in our business because it's working well at Marco Polo? Or what can we do differently that maybe isn't working at Marco Polo so we can provide the best quality support? So I think, yeah, whilst saturating the market maybe has already been done, I think the market probably is oversaturated. It means that participants have, I suppose, choice and control to choose where they go to. But as anyone who's going to set up a business, make sure that you are the best provider in the space so people come to you. Otherwise, it's a complete and utter waste of time. Well and truly. I did. I did. Unfortunately, it's actually come at the cost of a broken foot as well. I actually went to the doctors on Tuesday and found out that was, the start of a stress fracture in my foot. So it was fun. It was great fun. The participant that if I knew this would be the outcome, I still would have done it. The participant that I went with really had a good time. It was the Run for Kids down in Melbourne. So raising money for the Good Friday appeal as well. So great cause. Did a run 5 kilometres along South Wharf, up along the Balti Bridge. It was a great day, but I suppose that's just testament, and I say with utmost humility and this goes to anyone setting up a business from your previous question, is there are days where you are going to have to sit and have these conversations, you network, you put your name out there. That is part of having your own business. And there's days where you need to go back to what was the core and the inception of your business, which was support work. And for Gabe, Max and I, 2 of the 3 of us work today with participants. Gabe, it's 8:45. Gabe is still out with a participant now. So that is the nature of setting up your own business, is that you need to be able to be malleable. You need to be able to be flexible to play the role of where your business needs you. For me at the moment, it's doing this. For Gabe at the moment, it's being support work. And tomorrow the roles might flip. So if you are wanting to set up your own business, you need to be prepared to do it all, especially if you buy yourself. I'm blessed to have, It is. I think it's a threat for anyone. I think the idea of being an independent is great until it isn't. I think the way the NDIS is moving, it'll be harder to remain an independent in the NDIS, in speaking to what I previously mentioned to be the registration tiers. But ultimately it is a concern. But for me, I can either approach it or look at it as, heck, am I going to lose this support worker and 5 participants that work with this? Or how can I make sure Marco Polo is cultivating an amazing culture, an environment where people want to stay here, where participants see more value in the organisation and have an attachment to the organisation rather than their support worker? And that's, I suppose, what we've made a really conscious effort of doing, is to create a culture and an environment where staff turnover is going to be a thing in any industry. Unfortunately, in the NDIS, I think it's up around 25%, which is quite high in any industry. So I'd be stupid to think that I'm going to be able to retain every single support worker that is employed at Marco Polo. I'd rather invest my time and my energy instead of worrying about that into, like I mentioned, how can I celebrate people's successes? How can we create different opportunities for people to feel like they're contributing to a team, like they're valued? Monday nights, we've got a basketball team for the male, like the guy support workers around here, so that they feel like outside of work, they've got really good friendships with the people they work with. So when that little devil on their shoulder says, maybe I'll take these 5 clients and go independent, there's the other voice on the shoulder thinking, oh, well, these are also my good mates who have helped me and supported me a lot in this. Maybe there is more value in continuing to contribute to the community, which is Marco Polo. And not that I would ever feel like anyone. Yeah, correct. And for the girls, like in the past we've run mixed netball teams, we've had trivia nights as teams, we have more work parties and social functions than I suppose there are public holidays of a year. We love to. Gabe, Max, and I have always made a conscious effort, without disclosing too much. But ironically enough, we sacrifice financially a significant amount to reinvest back into this business that is put into a bucket of culture, because that to us means more than the dollars that go in our pocket. Yeah, well and truly. Yeah, and happy people who enjoy work tell other people about their workplace and their environment. I would argue that 100%. I would argue out of the 33, 34 supports we've got on the team, maybe half of them have come through word of mouth from other support workers who have been at Marco Polo, who at footy or at netball or whatever have mentioned, hey, like Marco Polo's hiring, why don't you come and have a look? So yeah, it saves us a lot of money on seek ads, that's for sure. Yeah. As a young team, we try and be as progressive and as digitally friendly as we can be. So obviously we've got our website, marcopolosupports.com. We also try and be quite active on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. For those who are on it, you'll see some really funny videos of Miller and Tyler and a couple of the boys doing dances that, might actually turn you away. But yeah, for people who are looking for work, come check us out through, our website or any of the other three means. For participants, we really love what we do. So we'd love to support you, to have that's Max's doing, and probably speaks to his creative side. So we're blessed to have people on the team, and that's not just me, Gabe, and Max. That's Miller, that's Sam, that's Lionel, that's our supports. That is everyone from top down who contributes to the culture and building the culture. We're really blessed to, I suppose, have the team we do, the skill sets that we do have, because ultimately culture isn't necessarily built from the ground up. I think that's a common misconception, is that culture and expectations and standards are set from top down. But what I notice is support workers work really hard at not the bottom level, because there's no hierarchy in what we do, or what I see Marco Polo to be. There isn't a hierarchy, but support workers work really, really hard for each other and for their participants. And then it's the 6 people who sit in this office who observe that and think, all right, well, we owe it to our we owe it to our support workers to match them and beat them. And it becomes this competitive, all right, well, I'm going to work harder than these guys and I'm going to achieve the best outcomes. So we're really lucky in that aspect. Is that when Gabe and Max and I were setting up this business, having accumulated a handful of experience at other organizations, often struggled with the concept that, you might be supporting a participant for 2, 3, 4 hours a day or a week. And at times you might solely be bound to the community. There's only so many movies you can go to, so many bowling alleys, so many shopping centers you can go to, so many coffees you can try before you've explored every single option and the participant hasn't worked actively towards any goals. I suppose when we set up Marco Polo, we took a massive risk and quite a punt on getting a property that we always had intentions for it to be a really purposeful, intent-driven facility where participants could come, learn new skills, socialize, and just, I suppose, do life in a very non-clinical feeling space, which led us to get what we call Marco Polo HQ. So we've got we're on 5 acres out in Armstrong Creek, about 10 minutes from Torquay, and have set up a facility where the property itself, the bedrooms have been repurposed into movie rooms, games rooms, music rooms. We've got sensory rooms. We've got a pool table, table tennis, a swimming pool, a basketball court. We've got a gym. And what we've noticed is that participants can actively work towards learning new skills when they're granted the opportunity to pick up a new instrument that they otherwise wouldn't have in the community. A participant can build independent living skills when they've got a fully functional kitchen and a handful of ingredients provided to them. And that's one thing Gabe, Max, and I really struggled with, is independently, without this intentional space, management might say, all right, have a look at your schedule. Here's 5 hours with this participant. See you in 5 hours. All right, cool. Well, I can't go and just run around in a music shop and grab all their instruments and learn new skills. I can't go and use any commercial kitchen to teach this participant how to cook. So we've created HQ, which, yeah, I suppose allows participants to learn these skills and be really intentional. And for me, I work out of here every day. It means, and so does everyone else who sits in the office, we still have that interrelations with the participants. I think the day that any of the six of us in this office stop doing support work ourselves is the day we've lost touch of what we're doing, or it's also the day we've lost touch to be able to instruct our supports how to do a good job. It does. It does. We've got some great little absconders who can only get so far on 5 acres. But yeah, I suppose that was the idea, is that the residence in the house itself probably takes up at best a quarter of an acre, maybe, which, yeah, doing the quick maths on it, you've got 4 and, yeah, 3/4 of an acre to walk around, do your thing. At times over the journey of Marco Polo, we've had some hobby farm animals here. We've had chickens, we've had goats, we've had, yeah, I suppose different things where people can go and collect the chicken eggs. And the idea is that collecting the chicken eggs in itself is one thing where you get to go outside, you get to interact with animals and the therapeutic benefits of that, but you get to grab the eggs and you come inside, and the next goal is you cook with these eggs. You learn independent living skills, even if it's just cookies that are then, yeah, I suppose, set out in the middle of the table, and then any other participant who might be there for the day gets to eat the biscuits that have been provided by another participant with the eggs that have come from Marco Polo. The participant who made them gets this real sense of satisfaction and is quite proud of what they've done because they're contributing to the community. It means participants at times who might not have had lunch during the school day because, I don't know, socioeconomic factors might prohibit that from being a regular, able to come to HQ and be fed and eat. It's quite holistic, and yeah, it's really cool what we're doing. Yeah, you're spot on, Sarah. We've got our respite house, which is about 3 minutes away from HQ. The idea is that, yeah, we've preserved that for being a space where we can do the sleepover side of STA supports, and then have kept the HQ in very close proximity, which is where the fun happens. At the start of Marco Polo, we were running respite supports. Ironically enough, the room that I'm in that's set up as an office was a bedroom once upon a time when we got this house, where we would host respite stays here. But naturally, as we grew, that became a little bit disruptive to certain participants who were on respite stays, where other participants would come and, yeah, kick down the front door of HQ at 7 a.m. wanting to feed the goat or collect the chicken eggs or play some instruments. So, yeah, we moved our respite house 3 minutes down the road, which is another support that we do. Pardon me, offer is respite supports. You must have got your hands on the roadmap, Sarah. It is something that probably will be our next service offering. We're actively looking into, I suppose, the infrastructure and the framework for facilitating that. We're blessed to be able to support a lot of participants, again, demographically being quite similar to myself and the other supports, who are at the age and the journey in their life where they're looking at moving out, spreading their wings from mum and dad's nest or whoever it might be, and looking at independent or supported independent living options. So for us, naturally, that is probably where we'll put some eggs in the basket. As to how, if you would ask me for a time, I'm not going to give you a number, but we are actively, yeah, it is. I appreciate it. No, I think we've covered a lot of things. Yeah, really appreciated being a part of this. Yeah, it's cool to see the opportunities that I suppose present themselves. Would I have been in a position to sit here and chat with you 2 years ago? No. A year ago, probably not. But yeah, I good. I'm glad, the exclusive lot. Hey, but no, I think, yeah, reflecting on Marco Polo, I joke around. I said to one of the boys at basketball, funnily enough, on Monday night, this in itself would be a scene in a Marco Polo movie. And I think if that was a thing where there could be a movie made out of Marco Polo, it'd be a really fun movie to watch. And yeah, I think whilst unfortunately probably Gabe, Max and I get a lot of the credit directed towards us, we've actually played a really minor role in this movie. It's for the work of the first support workers who decided to give us a shot as an employer when we didn't have any case studies as to how we manage staff, how we support staff. It's those support workers who were prepared to do that who are a big part of the story. It's the participants who say, yeah, I'm going to willfully entrust myself and my goals and my time, where I could go to a million other providers in the space. I'm actually going to give you guys a shot, that are a bigger part of the movie than what Gabe, Max and I are. So yeah, I suppose on a piece of paper, whilst it looks like, and we have at times worked really hard to get to where we are, there's a lot of people in this movie who deserve arguably more credit than what they'll ever get. So it's really cool to see where we've come thus far. I'm really excited for what is to come. I think there's some really exciting things planned, some that we've talked about today, some that are, you might see in coming weeks, months. We're super blessed to do what we do. I feel really honoured. Very good. See you, Sarah. Sounds good. Bye for now.